The Sisters of Dorley by Alyson Greaves. Read by Robin Nolan. Chapter 9, Vertigo. 2019, October 25th. Friday. Best behaviour, ladies, Indira says to the assembled sisters in the ground floor kitchen. A mix of second years, third years, and sponsors. We're going to have a guest. Hassan, Indira's childhood friend turned boyfriend, has been imminent for over a week, constantly delayed by work. But, as Dira told Christine in a glowing voice this morning, he went to his boss and demanded a 4-day weekend so he could visit his girlfriend, meet her friends, and see the sights in sunny Almsworth. Yes, Paige says, elbowing Christine suggestively. I'm sure we're going to see so much of Hassan. They've snagged 2 chairs at the kitchen table. Not ordinarily a precious commodity, but in short supply this afternoon, as various second years mill about, preparing dishes, talking quietly to each other, and snatching the occasional shy glance at the third years. Christine, watching them, wonders what they think of her. Do they see another woman? Or are they still fighting the program? Still viewing themselves and everyone around them as men too weak to stop themselves from being permanently altered? Not particularly helpful thoughts. Christine does her best to ignore them. What do you mean? You know how she feels about him, Paige whispers, and adds, to Christine's raised eyebrows, an almost too quiet to hear impression of squeaking bed springs. Christine, lightly and with love, hits her. Now, Indira's saying, ignoring Paige's commentary, you should all have had the standard visitor protocol explained to you, yes? Christine nods to prompt all the second-year girls, and after a few seconds, most of them start nodding too. Good. The only slight wrinkle is that Hassan believes Christine and I are transgender women. So if he says something to one of the two of us that he knows anything, I can promise you that's all he knows. So don't panic. That's Christine there, by the way, she points. The 6 second years stare. Hi, Christine says, waving with crooked fingers and wishing she'd worn a hoodie over her dress so she could cover her face and conceal her blush. She shuffles closer to Paige and whispers, hide me. Paige, amused, just pokes her with her elbow again. One of the second years waves back. Is he right? Another second year girl says. Right about what? Indira says. That you're a trans woman. Indira smiles. That's closest to how I view myself, yes. It's also how I've chosen to present myself to the outside world. Wow, the girl whispers. What about you? The girl who waves says to Christine. No comment, Christine says. Christine is still in her 3rd year here, Indira says, and has not yet been required to define her NPH. That's her new personal history, if your sponsors haven't covered that yet. Her frown at the confused faces in front of her suggests that they should have. So don't hassle her about it. But she's met Hassan before and introduced herself to him as trans. So for tonight, whenever Hassan is around, she is a trans girl and so am I. He shouldn't cause you too much trouble anyway. Aunt B and your sponsors will be available to help you. And for the most part, you will be separated from him. Hassan will be with me and my group. Paige, don't complain. I wasn't going to, Paige says with an edge of sulk to her voice. Paige collects fringe gender theories like Aunt B collects music coffee mugs, and the presence of an uncomplicatedly cis man inside the hallowed walls of Dorley will put a fairly large and unaccustomed restriction on her mealtime topic selection. Christine knows for a fact that she spent whole hours this week listening to a podcast by a guy who claims there is only one gender, that is the gender of angels, and that men and women are merely aspects of it, because Paige came to her one morning to enthuse about its finer details while Christine was attempting to replicate a particularly annoying makeup look, a captive audience. And she knows Paige has been waiting to talk about it with Abby, who is out of all of them most ready to discuss the gender apocrypha, but who has been away all week at her real job. Having to leave it until after Aunt B's big birthday dinner, when they'll all be too tired and sleepy to properly concentrate on its fascinating intricacies, will be torture for her. Paige's sponsor, Francesca, has told her off several times for cultivating so many unorthodox interests, to which Paige generally responds that the purpose of Dorley is simply to create women, not boring women. And besides, out of the two of them, who has 30,000 Instagram followers and who has 16? There's a reason they don't socialize together. Think of it as good practice for being cisgender, Indira says, and Paige sticks out her tongue in response. Paige explained to Christine a while back that she stuck with her identity as a cis woman. She ended up railroaded into it before she had a chance to properly think about the choice. When Christine asked why, Paige replied, marketability. Her Instagram and the contacts she's made through it are her ticket to a future in which she will, one day, she hopes, be able to do whatever she wants. Too important to risk. Later that night, however, a drunk and talkative page cornered her, looked deeply into her and unsteadily into her eyes, and explained that her cisgender facade runs only as deep as it needs to, and once she finds a partner that she can trust with her life and secrets, she will reveal herself absolutely and completely to them. Assuming they don't know everything about me already, she added, with the intense seriousness of the very drunk, just before a distraught look plastered itself onto her face, and she roughed off towards the nearest bathroom. A concerned Christine followed her and spent the next half hour holding Paige's hair out of the toilet. One of the second years puts up her hand. Yes, dearest says. Faye, is it? The girl called Faye takes a moment to reply. Oh, yes, who is this man, please? Has he come to evaluate us? No, dearest says, laughing. He's my boyfriend. Faye and the other second years take on a look of understandable handful of seconds to process this. Christine hasn't been keeping the closest eye on their development, but as far as she knows, they've all completed the move up to the basement to the first floor dorms shortly before the start of the semester, and thus the slowest of them will have spent less than 2 months above ground. They'll still be coming to terms with their new identities, might even still be mourning their old ones. They may well be capable of understanding that the third-year women looking up at them from the kitchen tables with amused smiles, Paige, and the worried frowns, Christine, are merely versions of them who have had longer to explore their womanhood. But the extra leap to the realization that a woman has gone through the very same program is comfortable enough to make with herself to have a boyfriend out in the real world is clearly the one most of them are having trouble making. You should see them together, Christine says, to fill the silence and let the girls off the hook. They're adorable. Thank you, Indira beams at her. You won't have to talk to him, Paige says, with a meaningful glance at Dira, if you don't want to. He's just here to see his girlfriend and eat a nice meal. Then you won't see hide nor hair of him for the rest of the weekend. How come? Faye, official spokeswoman for her group, asks. If you don't mind my asking, she adds. She seems to have a bit of reflexive politeness going on. Christine wonders who her sponsor is. He's her boyfriend, Christine explains, hoping she doesn't have to go into many more detail. Realization and fascination in at least 2 cases dawns. You're allowed to do that? One of the girls says. Christine's pretty sure she hears another one whisper, or sex? Of course we're allowed. Indira graduated years ago, says one of the sponsors Christine doesn't know very well. When you graduate, you will regain all the freedoms you had before, including the freedom to associate intimately with outsiders. And you'll be in a position to use your freedoms responsibly, unlike before, Indira says, unwilling to be outsponsored. And you're really like us? Another second-year girl asks. You really used to be a... Yes. Gosh, she says. She sounds so innocent and so odd that Christine can't stop a snort from escaping. I'm sorry, she says, controlling her laughter. It's just, I remember being you. Everything's new and strange, and just when you're starting to get a handle on everything, my lovely sister here, Christine, directs a meaningful thumb at Indira, goes and drops a bomb like that on you. It's a lot to take in. Indira blows Christine a kiss, and Christine fenders off, and the chatter in the room moves on. Most of the second-year girls return to the dishes they've been nursing, but none of them steps closer. It gets easier, right? He asks, and Christine finds her voice memories of waking every morning in a new bedroom, looking out at the world through real windows, wondering how she was going to learn to face the world as a woman when, after a year underground, the idea of going outside was extraordinary. It does, Christine says, putting all her conviction into it. I promise. She smiles, half to reassure the girl and half because she can't help thinking of Steph a little over a week ago, asking if he can really be a girl. Different journeys, same destination. You're Christine, right? Faye says. Christine nods. Do you? Like your name? I do. She gave it to me. She gestures at Dira again. And it didn't take me long to get used to it. A new name means no baggage, you know? It helps with sorting out who you're going to be from now on. It helps you move on. Of course, it helps if you want to move on. Faye nods slowly. I do, she says. I do want to. Good, Christine says, and then to cement the girl's mind that they're the same, that everything will be okay if she just keeps going. She adds, so did I. You're very pretty. Faye says, smiling shyly and curling a stray strand of hair around her finger. So are you. You're beautiful, actually. Because she is. Her jaw is still a little swollen from a recent-ish facial surgery and her hair is still growing out. But she has the kind of girl-next-door beauty that Christine has, on occasion, been told she possesses herself. The girl's smile broadens as she takes another half-step towards Christine before freezing in place, perhaps feeling like she nearly crossed the boundary. Christine stands, closes the distance between them, takes one of Faye's hands and uses it to pull her into a quick, tight hug, trying to express with her body the things that might still be too early to say to Faye and her peers out loud. It's okay to express your emotions. It's okay that you stopped fighting this. You're strong, not weak. Brave, not cowardly. You have a future, and it's okay to be happy when someone calls you beautiful. You're going to be okay, she whispers to the girl instead, pulling back to look her right in the shining eyes before releasing her. God, I hate this show. Why are you back for it every day then? I have a distinct memory of you practically skipping over here not 20 minutes ago. What else am I going to do down here? Besides, you were already here. So my choice was either come over here and gradually expire from boredom in front of the telly, or stay out there and die very, very quickly when one of the wandering dickheads decides it's time for a spot of kicking practice. You could just lock yourself in your room and wank. Thought that was your thing. Didn't I tell you about the friction saws? I'm sure I told you about the friction saws. It's possible I've forgotten. Deliberately. Okay, well, when a boy and his cock love each other very much, Stefan, will you please shut your boyfriend up? Aaron, be quiet and watch your favorite show. God, fine, whatever. Can't wait to see if the guy will like the jacket. The two sofas by the TV in the common room have acquired a small pile of beanbag chairs and some large and only moderately uncomfortable cushions, fetched from the storeroom by Maria after Aaron refused to spend any more time in the vicinity of Declan unless his sponsor makes him take a shower, which neither her powers of persuasion nor her taser have proved adequate for. The beanbag chairs, he argued, would allow him and Stefan to position themselves far away from Declan's odor whenever it may appear, and Maria eventually relented, returning from a side room with enough squashy living room furniture for an IKEA, and much of which has ended up spread around the common room and inhabited by Declan and his fellow unfortunates, but some of which remains localized by the TV. He asked for a can of air freshener as well, which Maria refused him. Probably because it's highly weaponizable, Aaron said at the time, and described, largely with mime, the process of fatally decontaminating Declan with cans wedged into all of his orifices in such a ridiculous manner that Stefan, despite himself, laughed. There are times when Aaron goes whole hours without saying anything more than mildly objectionable, when Stefan has to remind himself that he knows exactly what the little shit did, because God help him if Aaron isn't growing on him. Of course he'll like the jacket, Will says tiredly. They always like the jacket. They don't know how to dress themselves. It's like they'll like anything that doesn't make them look stupid. It's the same every time. Why do we watch this again? Because we don't control the TV, Adam says mildly. Stefan doesn't know exactly how the four of them became an oppositional unit to the others. But after some run-ins they've had with Declan, Raph and Ollie over the past week, he's grateful. Very nearly grateful, anyway. By unspoken agreement, they pee, wash, and shower in pairs, usually with Stefan and Aaron, Will and Adam. It took a couple of days for the group to properly coalesce, but after Ollie had another go at getting his sponsor's taser offer and got thrown in the cells, Raph threatened Aaron in the bathroom because he claimed Aaron looked at his dick, and after Declan threw a plastic dinner plate at Adam's head and bruised him quite badly, it was difficult not to acknowledge that there is strength in numbers, especially if those numbers comprise the most calm and least murderously unpredictable people in the basement. Martin, the drunk driver, has been almost entirely absent, holed up in his room, indulging in his own self-pity. Stefan would have been surprised at his sponsor letting him skip the socialization element of his rehabilitation, but in the few times he's observed them together, it's been obvious that Ella, Martin's sponsor, despises him, probably hoping he washes out, whatever that entails. Even now, with his two informants upstairs, Stefan doesn't know. Everyone claims ignorance. What do you think I'd have to do to get Maria to give me control over the TV for one day? Aaron says. Stefan, lying upside down with his head resting on a beanbag chair and his legs dangling over the backboard of a sofa, can feel the vibration of Aaron's voice in his ribcage. Aaron's lying lengthways with his feet tucked under Stefan's back. The boy's toes get cold, apparently. Reform, Stefan says. Pledge never to send another dick pic or harass another woman as long as you live. Aaron laughs. I don't think she'd believe me, and I still don't get how you guessed that. You look like the type. Something about you says I send unsolicited photographs of my penis to random women. He's right, Will says. You really do look like the type. Stefan bites the inside of his cheek for a moment. That pronoun is getting harder to deal with, but he's talked it over with both Christine and Abby, trying out alternatives like they, them, and Z here, and even, at Christine's insistence, consenting to be she, her for a night. But there's nothing that doesn't make him feel like an imposter. He is a he until he's not, he told Christine, which seemed to piss her off enough that it was days before she contacted him again. Eat me, William, Aaron says, showing him a finger. Shut up, Aaron. So glad that we're all getting along, Stefan says. Aaron turns the finger on him instead. Will you shush and watch the show? I'm invested. How can you even see like that? Aaron says. You're like upside down. He can see fine like that, Adam says, before Stefan can say anything. You used to watch videos like that all the time back home. Where is home, Adam? Aaron says, folding his arms. Just home. The three of them, well, mainly Aaron and Will, have been trying to nail down Adam's origins all week, but they haven't managed to gather anything more than what Aaron told Steph on his first day. Adam was raised in a church that may or may not be a literal cult, and it's called the New Church. Stefan asked Christine to look into it, but she didn't even bother Googling. Do you know how many religious institutions are called the New Church of something something? His childhood was clearly very sheltered and religious. Religious enough to inculcate him into the belief if the sins of the flesh originate in demonic temptation. But he's already retreated enough from the slightly more antagonistic attitude he put on in Stefan's first few days at Dorley, preferring to keep himself mostly to himself, although his near-whispered arguments with Will have on occasion expanded to include the others. A few days ago, unable to contain his curiosity, Stefan tested him, claiming as part of a story that he was telling in his youth to have kissed a boy once after school, but instead of the condemnation, or possibly the exorcism he expected, Adam merely asked, quietly, neutrally, if he enjoyed it. At least Will is simple. He's a walking Reddit post who went home for the holidays after his first year at Saints, found out by accident that his younger brother had come out, got drunk, and hit him. Simple, but not actually pleasant. Tabby, his sponsor, thinks he's an idiot and delights in antagonizing him. She's been pressing him about his brother. Yesterday, in front of the four of them, she told Will he'd been declared officially missing and his brother had been seen to breathe a sigh of relief. Will didn't take it well, and that night Stefan was subjected to another hours-long session of yelling from the room next door, which didn't interrupt his movies, but it did give him a few extra things to write in the notes he keeps on his fellow prisoners. The TV show wraps up, and Aaron takes it as his cue to roll off the sofa. I need a piss and a shower, he announces, and grabs at Stefan's arm. Come on, stop sitting like a weirdo and come with. They collect their washing kits, towels, and dressing gowns from their respective rooms and meet up in the shower annex where Aaron startles Stefan by facing him and disrobing, underwear and all. Stefan says, look at me. Why? I want you to be honest. Is the gossarellin having an effect on me? What kind of effect do you think it's having? Aaron taps Stefan lightly on the cheek to get him to stop looking away, cups a hand against his chest, just under where a breast would be, if he had any. Am I growing tits? What? Why would you possibly think that? Will says it lowers testosterone, Aaron says. So, am I growing tits? Aaron, Stefan says, the implant's not going to make you grow breasts. It's just going to make you calm down. He doesn't actually know for certain whether blocking testosterone results in breast development. Whenever he tried to research methods of HRT, he barely got beyond first principles, before it seemed better for his immediate mental health to continue to deny everything. But it doesn't seem likely. It's probably better for the sisters if Aaron is redirected from worrying about breast growth, but Stefan deliberately doesn't care about that. He is not here to help them. He stays silent if that's what it takes for him to get what he needs, and in this, Stefan has decided he is profoundly quite selfish. It's a character flaw that he has decided to face up to as and when he can also face up to his face, but fuck participating in the deception. On Fight Club, Aaron says. The guy lost his balls and grew tits. Stefan turns away from Aaron, his non-existent breasts, his naked body, and throws his robe and towel over the rail beside one of the shower heads. I haven't seen it, he says. But it's a movie, right? Not known for being 100% medically accurate, but Will said his dad was on the stuff. Didn't say anything about growing breasts, and that seems like the kind of thing Will would mention. Listen, stop showing me your cock and have a shower. I can hear it slapping between your legs. Shower now. Whatever else Aaron says, Stefan ignores it. He stares at the reassuringly plain tiled wall while he undresses. It's not pleasant to think about Aaron being changed against his will, even though he's done awful things and, up until now, escaped the consequences. And if he's to take Christine at her word, for all that she sounds occasionally a little too much into the idea like she's in a secular cult of her own, the cult of Dorley, then people like Aaron, unchecked, have the tendency to escalate. Maybe it is better to catch them early. Stupid to think about. Stupid to dwell on. Who cares if this place is good or not? Who cares if there's another way to reform these men? All that matters is Stefan, who hasn't harassed anyone, or hit anyone, or manipulated anyone, or run anyone over, gets what he needs. Screw these guys. Best to believe Christine. They deserve this, and they will ultimately be helped by it. Unless they wash out. He rinses out the shampoo, holding his head under the water for longer than is strictly necessary, luxuriating in the heat, and thus completely misses Declan entering the shower annex. He finally realizes something's happening when Aaron hits the floor by his feet. What the fuck? Stefan yells, stepping back. Stefan? Declan yells. He's wearing trousers and socks but no top, and thus gives Stefan his first look at Declan's figure. He's built like a guy who drinks beer every night but gets a lot of exercise. Literally barrel-shaped. You see a lot of guys like that if you live near a certain kind of pub, which Stefan's family did when he was growing up. Don't often see them this young though. Nice of you to join us. I was just telling Aaron here about my plan. Don't ask him about his fucking plan, Aaron mutters, scrambling to his feet and nearly slipping on the wet floor. He grabs Stefan's upper arm to stay upright. His dick slaps unwelcome against Stefan's thigh, and the combined weight of the two of them makes Stefan unsteady. For a moment, the tiled floor wobbles in front of him. And yeah, welcome back. You are seriously zoned out. What's going on? Stefan hisses. Declan's walking away from them both, towards the other end of the shower annex, and he sticks his hand under Aaron's still running shower, washing dark liquid off his knuckles. Stefan makes the connection, takes Aaron's jaw in his hand and inspects him. Blood on his temple, a trickle out of his nostril. Jesus, Aaron, did he hit you? God, Aaron says, you really were in another world. Yes, he fucking hit me. Ah, Declan's saying as he makes an obscene gesture. Look at you two. So cute. Do you sleep together too? Stefan, now sure that Aaron is steady enough on his feet that he won't fall down, carefully removes Aaron's hands from his upper arm and steps back, away from the running water. What are you on about, Declan? Sitting together, Declan says. Showering together? Only one thing left. Declan, you imbecile, Stefan says, hoping to draw out this conversational break in the confrontation long enough for Pippa or Maria or someone to see them on camera. This is a communal shower. He spaces out the syllables the way Declan does when he says someone's name. We have no choice but to shower together. It's just like PE after school. You remember school? Fuck you, you patronizing prick. You're antagonizing him, Aaron whispers. What's your plan, mate? Stefan says, ignoring Aaron, who closes his eyes in frustration. But it's either to keep Declan talking or deal with whatever happens when he stops. Where are you, Pippa? Ollie keeps going for the girls, Declan says. Stupid. Instantly piled on. Instantly taken out. But if he went for you instead, the girl's favorite little pet, and got a hand around your throat, they'd have to let him out. Me? Why me? Everyone else, Declan says, even the little wanker, he gestures at a defiant Aaron who is holding onto a pipe to stay upright, has been zapped. You? Never seen it. They protect you. You're their watcher or something. You work for them. They haven't tased me, and that makes you think I work for them. I just haven't done anything to make them have to. There's no point in trying to fight them. They have weapons, Declan. Locks on all the doors. There's concrete walls and no windows. It's a prison. You don't escape a prison with a clever plan. They're built so you can't. It's exactly what their little bitch would say. Nothing's going to happen here, Declan, Stefan says, taking another step away from the shower, towards the end of the annex. Just calm down, and we can all walk away from this. Fuck you, Declan says, and rushes artlessly forward. Stefan tries to step out of the way, isn't quite fast enough, and could have been badly hurt if Aaron hadn't collided with him from the side. They struggle to stay upright. Stefan staggers to the wall back by the entrance. Aaron drops to one knee and starts massaging the shoulder that made contact, and Declan slams into the side wall. He looks like he's going to get his balance back at first, but before he can do anything, Monica, his sponsor, steps into the annex. Okay, Declan, she says, sounding very tired. Stop fucking around. Can't shoot your taser in here, Monica. Hence this, she says, unclipping her baton from her belt. You two scram, she says to Stefan and Aaron. You sure? You're going to be okay with him on your own? Not going to be alone in a few seconds. Her eyes flicker down and she smirks. So if you don't want any other women seeing your junk, I suggest you robe up and leave. Right, Stefan says, pulls his robe up over his shoulders. Aaron is lying on the other side of the bathroom in the middle of a large puddle of water, so Stefan throws him a towel. Aaron's still tying it closed when Pippa and Maria follow Monica into the annex. I didn't start it, Aaron says. I know, Maria says, as Stefan catches Pippa's eye and shrugs. Go to your rooms and get dressed. Have fun with Declan, Aaron says, and Stefan puts a hand on each of his bare shoulders and pushes him out of the annex. 3 strikes, Declan, Monica says, and the closing bathroom door cuts her off. Stefan doesn't want to speculate on what's going to happen to Declan. He just wants to get to bed before his knees succumb to the weakness he's starting to work its way down his body as his adrenaline drains. Unexpectedly, Aaron follows him into his room. Aaron, Stefan says, sitting down heavily on his bed. Why are you in my room? Correction, why are you in my room? Naked. Not naked. Wearing a towel. Don't worry, I'm not all lewd under here. My dick is securely tucked back. It's actually hiding. Trauma reaction. To what? To Declan? Yes, to Declan. Don't make him sound so fucking trivial. Remember, he was the one who tried to fill it himself? Maybe if you'd seen it, you wouldn't be so fucking blasé about him. I'm not blasé, Stefan says, leaning forward and fishing a pair of trousers and a hoodie out of his wardrobe and passing them to Aaron. Look, he says, holding out his free arm, which shakes. I was just trying to keep him talking until help arrived. At the very least, get farther away from him to increase the chance of him slipping and branding himself on the tile before he got to us. Don't say that, Aaron says, dropping the towel on the floor. He tripped me, remember? Well, you were off in your mind palace or whatever. That could have been me, branding myself on the tile. Aaron doesn't turn around to get dressed, so Stefan, judging himself steady enough to stand, picks out fresh clothes and faces the wall while he pulls them on, trying to make himself believe that just because he's now seen Aaron's penis twice doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a third time. A delusion, obviously. Aaron's genital obsession borders on the pathological. No wonder he took all those pictures. Look on the bright side, Stefan says, flopping back into the bed. If you die down here, no more women will have to be subjected to your amateur photography. Aaron joins him on the bed, perching on the end nearest the door. Your dick pics, Aaron. Oh, he laughs, still apparently unrepentant. Those. For fuck's sake, Aaron, Stefan says, sitting forward and grabbing the box of tissues from the bedside table. You're still bleeding. What? Where? Sit still, Stefan commands, and when Aaron complies, he dabs at the cut near Aaron's eyebrow, cleaning the wound as much as he can with a wadded tissue. He takes another one out of the box, spits on it, and works on cleaning the blood off of Aaron's cheek and upper lip. This is weird, Aaron says, watching Stefan with careful eyes. Grow up, Stefan mutters, wetting another tissue, and stay still. Aaron fidgets, so Stefan tells him with a hand on his shoulder. Has he never been taken care of like this before? He's acting like ahem. Stefan doesn't jump, but Aaron does, smudging some of the remaining blood in a line along his jaw. Under Pippa's gaze, Stefan licks his thumb and wipes it off. She doesn't bother hiding her amusement. Hey, Pippa, Stefan says. Can you look at this cut? I don't think it needs stitches, but I'm no expert. She rolls her eyes, yanks Aaron's head roughly to the side, and peers at his wound. He'll be fine. She releases him and steps backward, flexing the hand that touched him. Since you're both here, I can save Maria a job. You're going to have medical examinations tomorrow, so be ready and don't muck around. It sounds ominous, Aaron says, raising a hand to dab at his wound and flinching when Stefan slaps it away. Don't mess with it, Stefan whispers. It's nothing to worry about, Pippa says, before Aaron can complain. You'll have a physical exam, there'll be some questions to answer, we'll be taking some blood, so drink the bottle of water that'll be in your dumbwaiter next morning. You'll also need to provide a sperm sample, so Aaron, it will be best if you manage to leave your penis alone for tonight. No promises, Aaron says. What's the blood test for? Pippa recites, wrote. We'll be checking your general health and ensuring your goserelin implants aren't causing you any problems. Yeah, what's with that anyway? Maria says it's to help us keep calm. It is. Yeah, well, it's not working on fucking Declan, is it? It's not the first time he's come at us. Monica will deal with Declan. Now go away. Need to talk to Stefan. Aaron stands up, a little unsteady, and steps around Pippa. Don't hurt him too badly, he says, before winking at Stefan, an utterly baffling gesture, and departing. Pippa shuts the door with her back of her foot and leans against it. Jesus Christ, Stefan mutters, throwing the dirty tissues into the bin and lying back on the bed, trying to force the tension out of his shoulders. When it's just him and Pippa in the room, he feels safe. The worst she's ever done is yell at him, and yes, trigger a very bad dysphoric episode, but she didn't know what she was doing, whereas the men, even Aaron, still have him on edge. Declan, today, a reminder of what most of them are capable of. What's your deal, Stefan? Pippa says. I have a deal? Stefan props himself up on the shoulders and looks at her. Playing mother hen with the boy flasher over there. Oh, right. He drops back down again, stretching his fingers and toes. Think I've adopted him? You've adopted him. Like a puppy. Like one of the ones that hasn't worked out nibbling on the other dogs is bad. You let him in your room. Stefan shrugs. Didn't mean to. Left the door open in case you needed a word after all that. He waves an arm in the direction of the bathroom. Was taken care of, and he just followed me in. Then he was bleeding, so I cleaned it up. Is there any reason why we don't have first aid kits in these rooms? Yes. Look, you know he's dangerous. To women. Not to me. What do you mean? He's a sexual harasser, right? He's not sexually interested in me, so it's not about that, Stefan, Pippa says, briefly closing her eyes. It's about power. It's about the thrill. The target often doesn't even matter. And it escalates. Just taking pictures of his baby peeing is not going to satisfy him forever. I get that, Stefan says patiently. I know he's a piece of shit, and I know he needs to change, and you hope somehow to change him down here. But he isn't harassing me, and he literally doesn't have a way to send me pictures here. I'm safe with him, I think. Stefan, Pippa says, perching on the chair by the computer and addressing him like an unruly child in his first regrettable detention. We watch him on the cameras. He's flashed to you multiple times. That's just, Stefan says, and he starts replaying recent events, and he can't really quite deny it. As a grudging veteran of the changing rooms at school, Stefan has rarely had guys disrobe quite so blatantly in front of him. Sure, he got a lot of glimpses, everyone did, but that was it. Yeah, I see what you mean. How many times? Half a dozen that we've seen? And that's if you don't count getting undressed in the shower without turning away. Oh, see, I was counting that, Stefan says. Pippa smirks and he adds, why does he do it? Who the hell knows, Pippa says and breathes out heavily through her nose. These guys, they're just unamendable. At least for now. Yeah, Stefan agrees, without thinking. For now. Pippa nods and then glares at him. You know that's you too, right? You're here for the exact same reason. What? Stefan says, caught off guard by the change in Pippa's mood. Flushing? You're dangerous, she says. Oh, yeah, right. I'm dangerous. Stefan digs his head a little deeper into the covers. It's too easy to forget that when you're talking to me like I'm a normal person. You don't like the reminder? Pippa sneers. Not really. It's Aunt Bee's birthday, and true to her habits, she has the second years making a huge celebratory meal. Also true to her habits, there's a point to it. to assess how well the girls are settling into their new identities. Because it's one thing to sit quietly in your room with a friend or a sponsor and be comfortable, quite another to participate in a stressful and often confusing multi-person, multi-hour endeavor, like, say, preparing a 4-course meal for your notoriously critical school mom cum kidnapper without reverting to old toxic patterns of behavior. And it is hot in the kitchen. 4 ovens, small windows with bars on, artfully hidden from the outside with vines so none of the cis girls on the top floors notice anything unusual. Christine, ducking back into the kitchen, long enough to maneuver around a panicking second year, steal a Pepsi Max from the fridge, and wink at Faye on the way out, is sweating by the time she makes it back to the relative serenity of the dining hall. She can't imagine how badly the cooks are overheating, except, obviously she can. She's done this already. In the dining hall, the opulent opposite to the functional kitchen, various Dorley women gather in loose groups, awaiting the arrival of Aunt B. Abby, Vicky, and Paige have claimed a small table in a quiet corner, and Christine joins them, dropping into a chair next to Abby and cracking open her Pepsi. "Jesus, it's hot in there," she says. "Right," Vicky says. "Remember when that was us? I remember my souffle collapsed." No, Paige says. "It was my souffle that collapsed. You did the casserole that was cold in the middle and crunchy at the edge." "You're right," Christine says, and taking a large swig. As usual, she wonders how Aunt B feels about having her birthday spoiled every year by a gaggle of newly in knickers second adolescent early 20-somethings whose ability to cook an edible dish was not on the criteria list for a kidnapping. At least one of this lot can bake a credible cake. When Adira and Hassan getting here? "Any minute," Abby says, looking up from her laptop. Christine cranes her neck to look at the screen. Dorley admin stuff. Nothing she hasn't seen before on her occasional trawls through the secure files. But it's been any minute for about the last 20. "There's a derailment," Paige says, tapping on her phone. "Not a bad one. Means minor delays, though." "Remember, Tina, you're a trans girl tonight," Vicky says, reaching around Abby to poke Christine in the shoulder. "I know," Christine says. "We had this conversation already. Actually, why are you trans to Dira's family, but cis to my girlfriend?" "Poor planning." "Really?" "Exceptionally poor planning," Abby says, peering through her glasses at the laptop screen and not looking up. Christine ignores her and drains her Pepsi. A sudden crash from the kitchen forces a surprised belch out of her, and when she sits forward to listen to the commotion, one of the second-year girls bursts through the double doors, runs through the dining room and out into the corridor on the other side. "Wait," Christine says. "Was that Faye?" Before anyone can answer, Nell, Faye's sponsor, follows her through the hallway, follows her halfway through the dining room before stopping, throwing up her hands and turning around. "I've had it with that girl tonight," Nell shouts. At their table, Paige clenches her fists and looks away, and her reaction pushes Christine to her feet in less than a second. If there's anything that no one at Dorley needs, it's an authority figure in a rage. Nell started working in tight circles in the middle of the dining hall, working herself up as she goes. It's so easy for Christine to plant herself in Nell's path, stopping short without actively having to grab her attention. "What? Yes," Nell snaps. "Christine, isn't it?" "Yeah," Christine says. Back in the corner, she sees Vicky hugging Paige, who is sunk into her chair and is looking everywhere but at anyone. "I can go talk to Faye." "How would that help?" Christine shrugs, affecting uncertainty. "I think she would benefit from speaking to someone a little closer to her own age, and we already talked a little earlier." "I remember. You think one hug is enough to build a rapport?" "I'm an outside voice. A new face." Out of the corner of her eye, Christine sees Pippa exiting the kitchen, taking in the scene in the middle of the room and walking over to where Abby and Vicky are still comforting Paige. "You're still in the program, aren't you? You're not qualified for this. What will your sponsor say?" Nell makes a show of looking around. "Is she even here?" "It's fine, Nell," Abby yells, closing her laptop and taking off her glasses, the better to glare. "Untwist your undies and let Chrissy talk to the girl. I still don't see what good it will do. I was her. Only a year ago," Christine says, choosing not to be visibly annoyed with Nell's attitude. "She is not this woman's inferior just because she is technically free yet. I think I can relate to her on a level that you, perhaps, can't." "You won't, Nell," Abby says in her sternest voice. "Fine," Nell says, stepping aside. "She's all yours. Knock yourself out in her thick fucking head." I will, Christine says, just as soon as I check on my friend. Paige looks up as Christine approaches and nods. She's okay. Vicky's holding her hand and gently stroking her upper arm, and Abby's been having a whispered conversation with Pippa. Hi, Christine, Pippa says. Think this was partly my fault. She's been having problems with Stefan, Abby says, just about managing to add the extra syllable to Steph's name in time. I'm not having problems, Pippa says. That's the flipping point. He's so, I want to say docile, but that's not it. He's nothing but friendly to me, and now that he's spending time with the other boys down there, he started, well, needling them. Needling them how? Christine says, looking behind her at Nell, who has declined to resume her pacing in favour of glowering at her. He's worked out what Aaron did to get here. Most of it, anyway. And keeps bringing it up, just throwing it into Aaron's face all the time, like he's trying to get it to sink in what he did was wrong. So, that's good, isn't it? I don't know. And he's too damn kind. I walked in on him patching up Aaron after the little sod got in a fight. And you know how long it normally takes him to get to that level of empathy. Not to mention the physical intimacy involved. She kicks lightly at a table leg. I feel like I don't understand him at all. And I need to, so when the treatments start, and they start soon, I have an idea how to coerce him. How to control him. I'm flipping blind, Christine. You still have the sister thing, Christine says. You threatened to tell his sister he's dead. Like we said. Pretty potent means of control. Look, I'm sorry. I've got to go talk to Faye before a bitch of a sponsor gets impatient and goes after her. Pip, why not ask Abby to go down and talk to your boy? She's got the sponsor experience, and she's a blank slate as far as this intake is concerned. She'll be a good second pair of eyes. Maybe she can see something in him. That's an excellent idea, Abby says, beaming, radiating at such absolute certainty that Pippa starts nodding before Abby can even finish speaking. We're good? Christine says. Good. And don't tell Nell I said she's a bitch. And she flees, following Faye into the rat's nest of corridors that form the back half of the ground floor. What's Pippa's deal, anyway? He'd love to turn her question back on her, find out why she seems almost offended at his refusal to be confrontational, but he's not sure the answer is worth pursuing. If the clues he's picked up about the coming year are anything to go by, then every woman who's been through Dorley has had a period of pretty serious and sustained trauma in her recent past, and risking triggering Pippa just to satisfy his own curiosity would be cruel. It also might get him tased. And as Declan pointed out, Stefan's on a good run of not getting tased. Hell, maybe if he does something provocative enough to get her to zap him, it might relieve her of some of her obvious tension. The sound of the biometric lock startles him out of his thoughts, and he has time to wonder whether Pippa really has come back down to give him a quick tase, just for the fun of it, when an entirely unfamiliar face appears around the half-open door. Hi, can I come in? No, not unfamiliar. It's Abby, recognizable from the photo booth pictures with Melissa, but Stefan realizes as she enters in response to his confused nod. Less than a fortnight in the basement, and he's already completely unused to the idea of someone asking for permission to enter his room. Dressed somewhat differently. Instead of the casual clothes, bare face, and tied back hair from the picture, she's wearing a loose dress in black and white with repeating monochrome dandelion pattern that inverts at her waist and crosses the matching belt. Her skin glistens and glitters around her eyes, and her hair hangs in tight curls around her face, brushing her bare shoulders as she walks. Stefan takes a breath and forgets to let it out for a few moments. Hi, he says, eventually, winded, as she closes the door behind her and settles carefully on the chair by the computer. Hi, Steph, she says, and reminds him what a warm, genuine smile looks like. On the bed, Stefan retreats behind his knees, wrapping his arms around his shins. Once again, faced with beauty, Stefan feels exceptionally ugly. You look seriously good, he says, and is pleased to manage the entire sentence without the thick feeling at the back of his throat impeding him too much. She smiles at him again, and he swallows. Before we say anything else, she says, pulling a remote just like Pippa's out of her purse, let's get some privacy. With some ceremony, she taps 2 buttons on the remote, and the red light strip on the wall goes green. I didn't know it could do that. No cameras, she says, and no microphones. Real privacy. A ball of tension Stefan's been carrying for over a week escapes him in a laugh, and he buries his head in his knees to stop it. Sorry, that's just a weird concept right now. I know, Abby says. I remember. He stares at her for a moment, making room in his head, as he has for Christine, Pippa, Maria, and the others, that this relaxed, stunning woman was once imprisoned down here. The concept is yet to get any more believable. It was different, though, in my day. The beds were against the other wall, and we didn't have a PC, just one of those Wi-Fi video player things. They were awful. When were you down here? 10 years ago, I think, she says, uncertain, looking up at the ceiling, as if something there might jog her memory. Yes, 10 years. We'd redecorated by the time Melissa came through. It's completely mad, you know, Stefan says. You and Christine are both so normal, yet you and both talk casually about the time you spent down here in this bloody dungeon. Christine, not always so casually, I imagine, Abby says, frowning and crinkling one side of her mouth. Yeah, that's true. It's fresher for her, and Steph, I want to say, now that I have the chance to tell you in person, thank you for not revealing our secret. You could have broken us. Her fingers sit curled in her lap, and her nails painted to match the dress, and he clenches his own until the knuckles crack. Sometimes I think I should have, he says. This place isn't exactly ethical, is it? No, but it works, Stefan interrupts. Sorry, but I know. Stefan's throat swells and his voice shakes, but he continues, monotone. I've heard it from Christine and from you. Dorley works. Everyone gets better. It's worth it in the end. Every fucking girl I meet is just stunningly beautiful and fully invested in the betterment of mankind and thinks that torture is totally and completely justified. Are you okay, Steph? Fuck, don't. Steph? Please don't call me that, Stefan whispers, unable to look at her anymore. He's finally been able to put a name to the weight that's been pressing down on him since she came into this room. And it's the same thing that's been assaulting him unpredictably, but ever more frequently since he came to Dorley. Dysphoria. He feels like his skin might boil away in shame and disgust. Abby stands, or he thinks she does. He's not looking. She makes noises consistent with standing at any rate. The silken whisper of expensive clothes, worn well, makes it worse. What should I call you? She says. Nothing. But he has to make her understand, so he glares up at her and sees only kindness and concern returned. Undeserved, but offered anyway. His anger and his shame failed him, are burned away from him, and he bites his lip until blood comes. When she reaches out for him, to comfort him, to help him, she breaks something inside of him. And for the first time in a very long time, Stefan cries. Impossible to say where he goes, but sometimes being looked upon kindly is the worst thing anyone can do to him. The first thing he feels when he starts to come back is her arm around his shoulders. She's resting her chin on top of his head and gently stroking the back of his hand. And when she feels him move, she releases her grip on him, but he doesn't just yet want to let her go. So he pushes back against her, asking silently for just a few more minutes of real human contact. She keeps a hold of him as he blows his nose, cleans his face, checks to see that he hasn't dirtied her dress. No, he pulled himself up so tight that he cried almost entirely into the fabric of his trousers and the sleeves of his hoodie. And eventually, not wanting to impose, shrugs his shoulders and moves away, releasing her. Sorry, he says, backing up against the headboard. Abby returns to the chair by the computer. It's quite all right. I think maybe I needed that. I could tell. It's been a while. You poor thing. And you can call me Steph. I was just being... It's fine, really. Okay, Steph? Thank you. Are you ready to tell me what hurt you so much? He forces a smile. You're beautiful. All the women here are, but since Christine, they've all been neutral towards me, at best, which makes it a little easier to deal with, being around them when I have to be like this, but he holds up a hand when she opens her mouth. Don't apologize. It's just my idiot brain doing cartwheels and landing on its ass. She nods. I feel like I should know just what to say here, she says, but I don't. You don't respond like anyone we've ever had come through here. For all my experience, I'm at a loss. Stefan laughs. I'm pleased to be an enigma. Well, you're definitely confounding Pippa. Oh? She's why I'm here, actually. She doesn't know how to control you. Came upstairs complaining about how lost at sea she is. Christine suggested I offer Pippa a second pair of eyes and jumped at the chance. Wanted to check in on you in person. See how the subject of our little conspiracy is doing. Think we've answered that, Stefan says. Not great. How is Christine anyway? We don't talk as much as I thought we would. She's been busy. Aunt Bee's noticed she's been slacking on some aspects of her development, so she's been working hard on that. Thought she was basically done with this place. There are a few hoops she has to jump through before she can graduate. Most of them she's been dealing with fine on her own. She's very independent, but in a good way. Indira has the easiest sponsorship since, well, me. Melissa didn't give you trouble? Almost none. When she came here, she was failing, and she knew it. She just didn't know how to stop, so I caught her, and the rest is history. She was never aggressive with me, mostly just confused. She wishes she had a copy of the photo booth pictures, or any other picture of Melissa, but he can still remember her face, and it finds it difficult to superimpose his memory of Mark on the person who came to Dorley years ago. Better to think of her happy anyway, graduated from this place, off in the world somewhere, living life. Abby, wanting to talk about Melissa as much as he does, feels the story behind the photo booth pictures. It's, amusingly, delightfully mundane. Stefan follows up with some stories from his childhood, back when Melissa was still around, and they settle back into an easy back and forth. He hadn't realized how much he missed having a normal conversation with a normal person, and Abby, like Christine, is shockingly normal, once you allow for the fact that their calibration for normal is balanced at least partly around their obvious belief in Dorley Hall and everything that goes on here. They agree on the story that Abby will take back to Pippa. Steph is compliant and helpful because he wants to be treated well, because whatever his own personal history, he still finds the other boys distasteful, and because he's worried that if he isn't, Pippa will follow through on her threat and tell his sister he's dead. It's a little more of a restatement of information Pippa already has, but coming directly from Abby instead of via supposition, guesswork, and Pippa's own limited experience, it'll be enough, Abby says, confidently, patting Stefan's hand. He asks her about the impending medical examination. She fills in a few vital details. It's to establish a baseline for upcoming estradiol injections, to make sure the goserelin hasn't had any unexpected side effects, and it's to provide sperm for freezing. We want you to be able to have a child in the future if you want one, Abby says, and Stefan shakes his head at the sheer absurdity of it. It really is possible to believe that Dorley wants nothing for the best for its residents, as long as you squint your eyes enough that the full year of torture and the non-consensual surgery and the complete isolation from your old life and all the other violations and indignities fade out of focus. She excuses herself not long after. It's Aunt Bee's birthday dinner, and apparently she can't miss it, but hugs him again before she leaves, and it's all he can do to maintain his composure. You're very sweet, Steph, she says. Melissa was exactly right about you. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing before I go. You're going to be so pretty. She grins and reactivates the surveillance before he can respond with such disbelief that such a ridiculous statement clearly deserves. It doesn't take Christine long to find her. People don't normally come back here unless they're heading down to the basement or getting something out of long-term storage, and very few people are audibly crying when they do so. Also, most of the doors are kept locked. There's a small conservatory at the back of Dorley's ground floor. It's poorly positioned and poorly insulated. It has no view to speak of and no time of year where it's actually pleasant to inhabit, so it's become a kind of storage room for old furniture, old books, old appliances, anything else rarely or never used. Faye, tear and mascara stained, sits cross-legged on a dust sheet that covers what was probably once a valuable chaise lounge before it was skeletonized by moths. She's kicked off her shoes, heels far too high for her height, at least when it comes to preparing food comfortably on the kitchen surfaces. And it's the sort of thing that only the stupid or the terminally glamorous would choose to wear while preparing a meal. And she's holding her ankles tight enough in each hand that the skin has whitened. Hi, Christine says quietly, because Faye hasn't noticed her yet and she doesn't want to scare her. Hey, Faye says, and follows up with a revulsingly liquid sniff before continuing. Unless you brought Nell, in which case, no Nell, just me. Can I sit down? Sure. Christine sits on the other end of the chaise lounge, leaving a whole person's worth of space between them. She has no idea how comfortable Faye is with her body yet, and this afternoon's brief hug notwithstanding, Any physical contact has to come from her. Did Nell pick those shoes out? Christine says, pointing at the ridiculous pumps. Yeah? Bad choice, Christine says, forcing a smile out of the girl. After a few more seconds of silence, she asked, what happened? Faye's grip on her ankles tightened. I was stirring the batter like Beck said to do. She's another girl in your group? Yeah, she's my friend, Christine nods, encouraging her to continue. I was stirring it, and then someone I don't even know came charging into the kitchen, and she was angry, and it made me nervous. And you know how there's just no space in that kitchen? And I think I took a bad step in those stupid heels, because the next thing I know, there's a broken bowl on the floor and batter on Bex's shirt, and Nell is yelling at me, and I couldn't take it anymore. She's been such a bitch. Yeah, like she still thinks of me as her enemy, and I'm not. I swear I'm not. Not anymore. You used to be? Yeah, I hated her so much, but I guess I was kind of everyone's enemy, you know? I was just so angry all the time. Christine nods. I was like that too. You? Faye says, as if Christine said she used to be bright green. Me. I did things to end up here. Same as everyone. Wow, I can barely even believe you're like me. Someone said that to me recently. I'm getting better at believing it. I used to think I was stained, that no matter how much I changed, there'd still be bits of the guy I used to be, riddled through me. But I changed even more than I expected, and the guy, he's just gone. I think you've changed too. Am I right? I have, Faye says, nodding. I'm not like that anymore. I just want to get on with people. I like it when I get on with people, you know? It makes me feel normal. But she won't let me be normal. She shouts at me, and sometimes I can deal with it, but sometimes it's like she flips a switch and just wrecks everything. Like the whole world just gets louder and sharper, but everything's also faded and further away. Like I'm on top of a high wire looking down, and the ground is swinging back and forth underneath me. So I panic, and when I panic, I've asked her to stop and to just say what she wants from me, but she's all, you know, what do you know? Faye, yes? Let go of your ankles, please. I mustn't. Why not? Because if I do, I feel like I'll lose control again. Again? Faye sighs, deeply, wetly moves the mucus from around her sinuses. When she speaks, she interrupts herself with sniffs, trying to clear her nose and restore her normal speech. She's got that 1 month of voice training timbre, and Christine knows at this stage it's difficult to keep the voice you want when your breathing is misbehaving. She's still trying for it though. She hasn't reverted to her old voice. An excellent sign. You know those videos where the cat has its back arched up and it's hissing and padding around all over the place, and then suddenly and completely predictably it just leaps forward and goes for someone? That was me. That was how I felt. That was what Beck said about me. Faye blushes for a second, and Christine bites her lip to control a wistful smile. I was angry, and I tried to hit people, and every bit of progress I ever made got wiped out whenever something new happened. I'd go right back to being him. When they started doing the shots, I snapped. When my breasts started to come in, I snapped. When they took my, after the orgy, I snapped. Every time, but Nell calmed me down every time. How'd she do it? By being the biggest bitch I've ever met. She'd yell at me and slap me and push me down. She'd put me in those cuffs. She'd tell me if I didn't learn to control myself and stop snapping over every little thing. She laughs again, but it's a laugh that scratches her lungs. That I'd wash out. And it worked, I guess. I went months. And then one day, a few months ago, all my old anger came back, and Nell wouldn't stop coming at me, And before I knew it, I hit her in the stomach. Not anywhere dangerous. I had some control, and she put me back in the cell for a week. Jesus, Christine mutters. I know. I was so ashamed. I still feel like such a fucking... I don't know what I feel like. I don't mean you, Christine says. Although, yeah, kind of extreme behavior. But you really think you've got it under control now? Most of the time, Faye says. I mean, she's clearly setting you off, making you regress whenever she's like this because you've changed, but she hasn't. And maybe you haven't changed as much as you could have by now because she's being stubborn. Your sponsor is supposed to modify their approach to you as you move through the program, By this point, it's not meant to be such an oppositional relationship. You mean she's still treating me like I'm in the first year? Exactly. Faye turns the thought over, flexes her fingers against her ankles. They're probably getting tired by now. Okay, she says slowly. But if that's true, what can I do about it? I can ask Abby to talk to her. She won't listen to me. I'm still in the program. But Abby's quite senior. Will she do it? She doesn't even know me. She knows me, and she's one of my best friends. You're friends with a sponsor. Christine grins. Abby's not a sponsor. Not anymore. But I'm friends with Indira too, and she is my sponsor. I know she's like officially my sister, but she's also my sister. Her and Abby and Vicky and Paige. We're a family, formed right here, under this roof, in this weird fucking house. Christine pauses for laughter, and gets it after a moment from amused Faye. It doesn't have to be the way it is between you and Nell. It's a nice thought, Faye says. So, Christine says, the question is, if I talk to Abby, Abby talks to Nell lays off, maybe treats you more like a girl and less like an unexploded bomb, what will you do? Stay calm? At a girl, she says, smiling. Shake on it. She shuffles closer on the chaise lounge and holds out her hand. Faye will have to release one of her hands in order to shake, and Christine wants her to do it soon. Ideally before the pressure that's built up inside the poor girl causes some kind of nuclear event. She does so, stretching out each finger as she lets go, loosening her elbows and shoulders and rolling her neck. Eventually they meet, shaking hands, and it becomes a hug, tight and warm, and Christine shuffles backwards, releasing her. Faye leans upwards towards Christine's mouth. No, Christine says, gently pushing Faye away. That's not what I'm here for. The girl, previously lost in the moment, returns to herself instantly. Fuck, she says, and shrinks away, steps off her seat to stand in the middle of the room, bisected by moonlight, clasping her hands in front of her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Faye, it's okay. It's just with the other girls. God, you think I'm weird, don't you? A pervert, a fucking rapist or something. No, Christine says. No. She clasps her hand together, hoping the sharp sound will break into the beginning of the sort of spiral she'd hoped to arrest or avoid. The way that Faye jumps suggests she's at least partially successful. Absolutely not. I shouldn't have kissed you. You didn't. I tried, and with the other girls I've done more than that. Did they agree? Yes. Then we're okay. Is it? We're men. Are you? I mean, we used to be. Does it matter? Yes. Whatever you are, whatever you used to be, looking for pleasure with someone is never wrong, as long as it's consensual. Fuck. No, God, that's not, I didn't mean it like that. Shit, I sound so homophobic now. I didn't. What do you mean? Can I have a second? Christine smiles. Take your time. She nods and walks around the room a little, clenching and unclenching her fists. A minute or so later, she stops, sits down on the end of the chaise lounge, a chaste distance from Christine, and says, I was a straight guy, completely ordinary in that way. Not in a lot of other ways, but I was straight. And when I look at you or my sisters, I see women. And even though I know, it's like I don't know. Or I can forget, you know? I know. I was the same. You were? Well, I was still getting used to this, Christine indicates herself. Getting used to me, this new body, this new identity. In my head, I thought, I can be with the other girls and just not acknowledge who I've become. They're women and I am me. And there was another girl who for a while thought the same way. I'm not telling you who, Christine adds, remembering. And it helped. It was a route to figuring out who I am now, one of many, and pleasure's never a bad thing if you both ask for it. You don't do that anymore? No, I and my partner, we didn't need the escape anymore, because that's what we were doing, escaping from ourselves. And when we both became new people, new women, suddenly we had nothing and no one to run from anymore. Christine leans her chin on her palm, following her old self through memories. If my first year down here was about letting go of my old self, eventually accepting that by the rules of this place, I needed to become a woman to truly kill him off, then second year was about finding out who she is and becoming her, you know? Learning to live as her instead of in her. She laughs. You get the body before you get the soul. I don't feel like a girl yet. Faye says, half to herself. Beck says she does, but I don't know if she's serious or just trying to convince herself. Do you still feel like a man? I know you called yourself one before, but do you feel it? Or is it just habit? Faye crosses her legs again, leans her back against the dust sheet. A month ago, I would have said yes. Maybe 2 months, but now it's weird. In some ways, I don't feel any different, but at the same time, I don't really feel like a man anymore. And it's not from looking like this. I don't think so, anyway. A guy in my school was trans, and he always said it, even though he had to see a girl when he looked in the mirror. He knew who he really was. I'm kind of jealous of that certainty now. Were you friends with him? No, I was a bastard to him. A bitch now, I guess. I don't know. Feel like I've been emptied out. I'm no one. You won't always be. Is that really possible? Can you just become this? Not just accept it. You can embrace it. It's a choice, like everything here. And sure, like everything here, the alternative choices are not enjoyable ones, but it's a choice, nonetheless. What do you think, Faye? How are you going to choose? I don't know. I think this, being a girl, like, even if I never feel it, there's... She scratches her chin, covering her hesitation. There's ways to live like this, even if I never get there. I've been talking with Bex, and we have some ideas about the future, what we want to do. Oh, Christine says, radiating interest. Involve her in her own future, and she's halfway there. Well, I'm good at art, and she's good with numbers, and Bella, Bex's sponsor, says we don't have to do the same degrees we were doing before, so I'm going to do graphic design, and she's going to do accounting, and we're going to go into business together. That's great, Christine says warmly, not having to fake her enthusiasm. It's a good plan, better than hers anyway. It's just, Faye says, deflating a little. I don't know. It all seems so unfair. I know, sweetie, and it kind of is. We didn't bring this on ourselves, after all. This was clearly something that was done to us. But I was a bad person. And so were you, if you're honest with yourself. Faye nods. And that was unfair too, on everyone around us. Was this really the only way? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I definitely needed a hell of a kick to get out of all my bad habits. And there's almost no bigger kick than this. And it's worked. For me, my sisters, my friends... I'm a better person now. Say it again like you mean it, Christine. And I'll always be a better person. Faye, biting the end of her finger, nods again, then blinks, reanimates fully. Gently she pats her face, feeling her damp cheek with the back of her hand. Fuck, I've ruined my makeup. I don't care what Abby says to her. Nell will kill me for this. Actually, Christine says, she doesn't have to. She pulls her phone out of her shoulder bag, drops into the group chat and types out a quick message. The reply comes back instantly and she grins. Why don't you come upstairs to my room? Paige will get you fixed up. You'll be even more beautiful than before. You can really show off in front of Bex. Christine watches a bloom flush on Faye's cheeks, and the girl knows it because she tries to hide behind her hand. Busted, girly, Christine thinks. But wait, I'm not allowed upstairs. I'm saying you are. Just for tonight. And it's my room, so what I say goes. I'll have to go past Nell anyway, and she'll see. No, Christine says. No, you won't. She stands up and holds her hand out to Faye. Confused, takes it, and follows her to the conservatory and out into the corridor. They stop together in front of a locked door, and Christine holds her phone up again, brings up her private app, scrolls through until she finds the stairs that lead straight up to the second floor storerooms, and taps. In front of a wide-eyed Faye, the lock rolls over. Christine raises a finger to her lips. Shh, she says. End of chapter 9.